Hello, welcome, or welcome back. If you're new to the channel, please feel free to like and subscribe. It does go a long way. Sorry I haven't made a video in a while. I got really sick, and then I got a tooth pulled, and my work life has been absolutely insufferable. So I've been really tired, to say the least, and I have all this November content just ripe for the picking, but it'll make its way to your eyes on its own time. I really shouldn't be making this video right now. I have a car coming in 4.5 hours to take me to the airport because I'm taking a little vacation because I just need to get away. We're talking about Gotham Knights. Gotham Knights is I almost said single player, but just because that's what I want it to be doesn't mean that's what it is. Gotham Knights is a decidedly not single player action RPG that follows 4 of Batman's sidekicks in the wake of his death as they grapple with what it is to carry on a legacy of an icon. Great premise. Very interesting. Could have been done really, really, really well. But it's not what we got. And that's not why we're talking now, is it? If this game was great and fine and dandy, there wouldn't really be much to say. There'd be no video. She was a bit of a flop, Gotham Knights. I was personally really excited because I do really enjoy the Arkham-verse games, and I didn't really see much promotional material for this. That's the theme on my channel. I sometimes don't really look at the trailers, not on purpose, not because I'm trying to avoid spoilers. There's just always so much coming out, and I can't watch everything. I can't keep track of everything. So I didn't know going into this game that it was not a part of the Arkham-verse, that this was decidedly different, which makes sense with the story strides that they took here. They don't fit within the Arkham verse, but Gotham Knights uses multiplayer as a little bit too heavy of a crutch for all of its shortcomings. I think they really wanted to do the Avengers thing where it's like multiplayer for some reason, but multiplayer hinged to a cinematic, specific, beat by beat story. It didn't work with Avengers, and it doesn't work here. My thought for Gotham Knights is that it has 3 very specific spiritual predecessors, being Avengers, the Arkhamverse, and Spider-Man. Those are the games that make up the ethos of what this is, because it has like the shitty lacking of a power fantasy hinging on a multiplayer experience to earn a simple cash grab, campaign divided missions. It has that sort of feel that Marvel's Avengers. I hate that I keep calling it Marvel's Avengers. Avengers. People know what Avengers is. It has that same sort of feel that Avengers has. And I think, coming off the wake of the Arkham games, which were all quite successful. Arkham Knight, a little bit of a flop compared to the other two. IMHO, I was playing it recently just to see how the 2 games compared, because I was like, Arkham Knight is probably going to shit on Gotham Knights. It does and it doesn't. The strength of the Arkham games is that they are tonally so strong, and they can take really big narrative swings and just have a lot of fun with characters that are familiar and unfamiliar. Like, I'm certain a lot of people probably didn't know who like Victor Zsasz is. Scarecrow is a popular Batman villain, but he's not always at the forefront. Like, he was popularized more so in the Dark Knight trilogy. But I think a video game is a much more exciting medium to employ spooky, scary hallucinations. So yeah, the Arkham games, tonally very, very strong. The story is at least interesting. There's always a mystery. There is always a hook that keeps us engaged. And Spider-Man. Spider-Man is a brilliant piece of media. It plays so nicely. The movement mechanics are gorgeous. They feel really, really nice. It's exciting to just explore digital New York by swinging webs and getting through the city very quickly. It just feels really, really nice to play. So I think this game has the open zone, big city feeling that Spider-Man has. It has the shitty multiplayer that Avengers has, and it's Batman. So you're going to compare it to an Arkham game naturally, just because that's where she comes from. I found everything about this game to feel really disconnected, and I couldn't get invested. I wanted to so badly. I'm a sucker for a superhero story. I find that they're just like really easily digestible, and it's just fun. It's fun to see people with powers do things. So I was looking forward to this release because it's not just one Batman, it's four of them effectively. I was really hoping that Gotham Knights would function similarly to Arkham City, where there are dedicated segments where you're playing as Catwoman, where you're playing as Batman, and they have different strengths and weaknesses. They have different kits and different loadouts, and different ways that they can employ stealth and combat in order to fulfill the mission objectives. There are stealth elements here. They're not very strong. You are better off just engaging with the combat portions of Gotham Knights because there's not really much of a point in doing the stealth stuff. And your kit, like the loadout, isn't as strong for what you can do stealth-wise. The Arkham games were a lot more focused on that stealth experience. Narratively, Gotham Knights is dynamic in the sense that the story progresses regardless of which character you choose, and it progresses in the same way. So it's dynamic, but it's also not. You're really railroaded narratively, but your interactions change. And I imagine that if you pick one character at the beginning and you stick with them all the way through, you might have a full picture of who that character is. Maybe. Who's to say? Do I know who any of these four are? Based on playing Gotham Knights alone, I most certainly do not. So you can switch through them. I found that, or at least in my playthrough, I switched characters for maybe the first third of the game, and then I just decided that Jason Todd was the most interesting, so I played as him for the rest of the game. It's probably the best way to have a cohesive experience, is just to like pick one at the beginning and see where it goes, especially because Gotham Knights is level based and your levels don't transfer between characters. So if you get a bunch of levels as Batgirl, Robin is still going to suck. So like that makes sense in universe and mechanically. But you know, if you want a good character build in the late game and you don't want to have to spend basically a full game amount of time with each of these characters ensuring that they have good loadouts by the end, like you're not going to want to switch characters. It totally de-incentivizes that. You're going to want to pick a main, and that's the most efficient way to play because otherwise you're going to be so much weaker for it. In terms of these characters, Nightwing used to be in the circus and he was the first. That's what we know. Batgirl has a dead dad. That's what we know. Robin is the youngest and is really smart. End of list. And Red Hood, he died. Fun drinking game. This game takes about 20 hours to play, but take a sip every time someone is like, Jason, you died. Maybe do shots, but you'll get drunk because that's all they say about him. Jason, you died. Jason, you died in the Lazarus pit and you came back to life. That's his whole deal. And I mean, it has a really strong interpersonal stake because that is his trauma. But these characters do not get fleshed out at all. And we spend so much time with them and all they do is have like lukewarm arguments and then just like talk about how they're going to do it. But they can't maybe because, I don't know. We're not Batman, so maybe we can't do it. But let's do it. And then they do it. Because they're superheroes. Like, no, they're not going to lose. What are we here for? It's just frustrating that they could have explored so much by making actual characters, but they didn't. I don't know. This game has like a whole email mechanic where you're receiving messages from all these people, and it's like kind of a fun Easter egg if you know who all these characters are. But some of these deep cut DC babies, I have no clue who they are. I don't know, I felt like the whole time it was teasing that we might get some guest appearances from characters we weren't anticipating to see, and that maybe we would have some fun interactions. Maybe I wanted to see Nightwing and Starfire go for coffee and cry. Just something to hang on to. I just need to know a little bit more about these characters. Like, do any of them have parents? Do any of them have friends? Do they even like each other? It's just so boring that the game hinges on these four protagonists, but they're not even pals. It's not even like a buddy cop thing because you choose one of them and no one else is around, but it's to force this multiplayer bullshit that causes the game to chug at 30 FPS, which normally I wouldn't have a problem with, but because of the hyperrealism cinematography look that you're going for, it totally lessens the quality of the product. It's just, this game could have been so good if someone had the courage to say, we're going to make money anyways, so we don't need to do this microtransaction-y cash grab thing with having multiplayer and like a nonsense leveling system that's insufferable, and just having like all these menus and map objectives. Like, so much of this game is inscrutable, and the map has so many icons that are just bullshit, and then they won't include where you actually need to go on your map. But if you go into the quest log, and then not even just the quest log, if you go into like the knighthood page or whatever, and then you click on the thing, it'll tell you exactly where to go. But they don't want to include that on the map? For why? I spent like probably 4 hours beating up random thugs across the city, only to find out that you have to beat them in a specific location in order to get this particular objective, in order to progress the story. But like, if you're going to include it in a sub menu that I can find the very specific answer to, why not just include it on the map in the first place? Also, another thing that kind of deflates the whole shebang, who's the villain? Who is the villain? Blanket question. It's cool that like the Mr. Freeze and Harley Quinn and Clayface stuff all have like dedicated side stories. I don't think they're all done very well. In my opinion, the Clayface one is the best, and Harley Quinn, wow, what a watered down version of such a fun character. What's the most frustrating is that there are so many people with skin in the game. Me, a sports reference. Wow. There's just so much going on, because there's all these different factions with mini map objectives that you can kill and beat, because there's the mob, and then there's the regulators, which are the Mr. Freeze people, and then there's the Court of Owls, which finding the Court of Owls places very, very beautiful, but like, who cares? And then there's like the Al Ghul people. There's one more. Oh, and then there's quote unquote the Freaks, which I think are the Harley Quinn people, or they might just be like gang members. So that's like 5 different sects of villains. But what does it all mean? Yes, Gotham is rife with crime, so like, you can have an in-world explanation for it, but maybe let's pare it down, like just a smidgen. And if you're not going to do that, at least make me care about who they are. The Court of Owls could have been really, really cool. It created for some extremely beautiful imagery, but in the end, literally none of it matters. What do they want? Control? That's great. But like, why? Control of what? What does it get them? Why? That's my question until we get the center of this. Like, they literally didn't do anything. They had all this set up. You have a whole mission where you're going through this hotel, very much like that one Dragon Age Inquisition one. And it's all about listening in to the different conversations and like figuring out who the leader is based on the voice data that we have of when we were, trapped in the underground, and this lady in a wheelchair was going to kill us with these Talon guys. So much setup for literally nothing, because they're not even the main villain, because Talia al Ghul is scurrying around the whole time, and she's like, yeah, my dad is dead. We watched him burn. I am not the villain. I am not doing anything. Like, she's a great villain. And at the very end, her outfit is such a serve. I think her use in this narrative could have been really great, but they didn't know what to do with her. They didn't know what to do, just in general, with any of these characters. What they really needed to do was just make a Red Hood game. This game is not about the Court of Owls. It is not about the other 3 idiots in the lineup here. It is about the League of Shadows and Jason Todd. Batman dies. Jason Todd, the most unlikely and the most complex of anybody here, takes up the mantle. Jason Todd didn't do everything right by Batman's rules, so he has the biggest journey to go on. Also, he died and he came back to life, and that's a really specific trauma that no one else here has. They set him up to be the most interesting, and because the narrative is entirely about the Lazarus Pit, in the end, like, that's the only thing that matters. Spoiler alert, Batman has been alive. Talia al Ghul made a new Lazarus Pit and brings him back to life, and that's part of the climax of the game, is that you fight her at the Lazarus Pit. How poetic. How poetic that Jason Todd dies, is brought back to life from the Lazarus Pit. That's our prologue. Then we have our game. Whole game happens. We figure out what's going on. Game ends. Lazarus Pit is being built, because that's the mystery. That's what we're trying to figure out. The Lazarus Pit is there, and Bruce Wayne emerges from it, and you have to fight this predecessor who you've been mourning, who is now in the same position as you are. It's great bookends because they mirror each other. It was just, I mean, granted, this happened in the game, but it would have packed such a bigger punch if they had a better setup, because the payoff is there, but it just didn't work. And then, you have this really climactic fight with Talia al Ghul, which if you trap her in a specific corner, I guess you can have her like clip such that she can't recover. And then you can just like cheese the fight that way. That is what I did, because I found this fight to be insufferable, because I did not enjoy the gameplay. What's the point of the dodge if the dodge isn't going to be good enough? This game really needed a block. It really needed the ability to block. I'm okay. What did I like? I think like the only segments I liked in this game were the mindfuck maze, where some like body horror elements happen when you're being trapped by the Court of Owls. I thought that was really cool because it explores the characters' inner lives, because it exposes their fears. So it actually develops something. And I'm sure if I played as the other characters, I would maybe find them to be more important, and I would maybe be more invested in them had I experienced all of these specific things that were selected to be shown to you had you chose to play as them throughout the game. Like, maybe I would care more if I saw their mind palaces and their fears. But I still think narratively, Red Hood functions the best for what this game decided to be. The other fun part was going to Arkham Asylum, but it was a nice nod, because it's obvious that this wanted to be Arkham and Spider-Man and Avengers so bad, but it flopped because it chose all the wrong things to be. Okay, I don't think I have anything more to say. My soapbox was really about Red Hood being the real hero all along. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. About 95% of my viewership comes from people who are not subscribed, and if that changed, I would be monetized. So if you feel so inclined, I would really appreciate it. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you in the next one.